Hi everyone, how are you? I gotta dust myself off. I've been in a deep rabbit hole. You guys aren't even gonna believe the way we're going to go tonight. I think that there are some things that need to be explored before we can move forward. So, as I want to move forward with reading the book Controlling People, as we've read chapter 1, and I have you guys on hot hold for chapter 2. And as I told you guys I was going to go back to the Tylenol, there's something more important right now. I got to tell you guys all about it. You guys are in for a ride. So go get yourself a drink, or, run your bubble bath, or get ready to weed some weeds out of your garden or whatever, because this is a trip. This is becoming a freaking trip, okay? So without further ado, this is Tabitha Jane After Dark, and I am not a licensed therapist in any way, shape, or form. My video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I believe that I am coming through as a teaching opportunity. I am almost finished with my master's degree in forensic psychology. I did get brave enough to go and look at enrolling, and I'm a little bit further than I thought. So I'm almost ready to wrap up my master's in forensic psychology, and I think I need to. I think that needs to be done. So that was kind of a cool thing. I am not mommy shaming. I am advocating for children who were placed in a situation due to no fault of their own that caused the loss of their lives. I believe that I am able, due to the fact that SW put herself on a very public forum on social media. She subjected herself to scrutiny. And as such, I believe that I am addressing potentially abusive and harmful behavior. In order to continue to prevent future abuse, I am doing this work here. And I thank you so much for coming along on this journey with me. My fear here is that we see so many people saying that, she was the best mother ever. I want to be like her. I want to be like her. She was so good. There's not ever been a better mother. She's the best mother I've seen. So we need to be very careful here, because there are people out there that think that. And it is our responsibility to look at the behavior and address what is really going on, and look at the fruit and see how those girls were being affected by what was truly going on in that house. And the deeper we look here, the deeper we're going to find answers. And people will say, well, what does it matter? It happened like that, and the person who did it is behind bars. Well, I just don't believe that it just happened like that. I don't just believe that he was out walking one day and he's like, I'm going to come back and murder my family. Huh? I was going to do it. It's one thing to lose your shit and kill your wife, but it is a whole nother thing to kill your little baby girls. For as many people say that SW was an excellent mother, he was an excellent father. He was the one actually engaged in playing with those girls. And he was the one sneaking them in sandwiches when they were in their 12-hour lockdown. Okay? You don't go from a father who does that and was so hands-on with everything that he did for those girls to that. Something happened. Something was building up. And we owe it to their honor, their memory, to figure out what it was, so that lives will be saved as their legacy. There wouldn't be anything that they could look down on and be more proud to know. And I believe that applies to their mother, SW, as well. I'm sure that she knows exactly what's going on. She hears exactly what we're saying. And she's looking down going, yeah, you're right. Or you're wrong. Oh, you missed that one. But you know what? At the end of the day up there, she's probably going, I could have made a lot better decisions here. And if I would have, maybe things would have went different. Not saying she's at all responsible for what happened, but there is so much more here at play. And as I found out, when other creators referred to Baby Wise, because SW herself referred to Baby Wise in her videos as Neeks Peaks shows. In her own Facebook posts, she would refer to Baby Wise as being the best thing that was ever recommended to her, that it made her a better mom, that, because of what Baby Wise said, she has a life now, that she has time for herself to put on her makeup in the morning, and then she has some more time by herself. And then she has more time by herself, and her girls are sleep trained. So you know what? Score for mama. It's light outside, but my girls are in bed because of Baby Wise, because my friend told me so. And so, you know what? Win-win for me. Wine time. Those were all said. Those were all straight from her mouth. Okay? With a little girl who she also in the same breath claimed was going into kindergarten, and a 3-year-old. And so I hadn't heard of Baby Wise until I heard it on a channel that I started listening to, and I was on a panel, and then I was muted and blocked. So I heard that creator talking about this Baby Wise. And once I heard it, I started hearing other creators saying it and whatnot. And that's where I went back and said, what the fuck is that? Because I have never heard of it. I don't know where anybody would be recommending this hogwash. And I went and got the books, as you know, and did the presentation. And then What's the Obsession? Kelly, unbeknownst to me or her, had done the same thing. She had read the books, and she was, preparing a presentation. So she had me on the panel so we could talk about it last week. And it serves as a valuable lesson that some of these terms that are just basic buzzwords, that when people refer to this case, they're still using them. I have still heard people this week bashing Baby Wise because of what it told SW to do. And I am a very small creator, so they have not heard my deep dive into it to say, hey, Baby Wise didn't do this. Those were her own fucked up decisions that she did. She chose those decisions. She created something that she could blame, because who else was going to go get the book and read it? Obviously nobody in her little enabler circle. And nobody that has been talking about this case for years took one for the team and went and read it. I mean, it taught me so much. I mean, like I say, I've been out of college for a little while. I took a hiatus, and when you take a hiatus in higher education, it tends to, you start out with just, wanting to take one term off, and then it goes to, oh yeah, maybe two. Well, it continues. And so, when you're really engaged in higher education, you're so disciplined to go and cite your sources, to never take anything for granted, to not listen to what somebody else says, to not do the research yourself. And because of the Baby Wise being this example, I saw how people responded to me last week trying to talk about this and whatnot. And it really showed me that there are people who really don't believe what is proven to be true that she was doing. And so creators that can cut it up and show, like What's the Obsession, Neeks Peaks, they are brilliant. And they can do things that I can't. I can be that voice right now that you listen to, when you're driving back and forth to work, or, or whatever, you're taking a nap and you fall asleep, I put you to sleep, whatever. I can be the one that you can listen to, because I don't know how to put these videos together. I don't know. Maybe in the future I will. I don't know. But for right now, I don't know how. So for right now, I can kind of talk to you about what I'm finding out as I look deeper, and as I peel the onion, and as I go through all the layers of things that I took for granted when I started looking at this case. Now, on the Tylenol thing, my best friend said to me, did you see that Tylenol is now being linked to autism? And yes, there's a class action suit that says that. Now, what can we say in that? We can say that that's kind of low-hanging fruit for a class action attorney, because what's the pretty much safest thing that you're going to take when you're pregnant? Tylenol. So if they can take this thing, and autism is either on the rise, or because we have a way of identifying and defining and treating and such for it. So you say, is it the Tylenol, or is that just an attractive deterrent? Is it really the Tylenol? Well, here's the thing, is that no doctor is going to recommend anything when you're pregnant. They're not going to say it's safe to take anything, because we don't take human beings as test subjects. So we don't get a group together and say, hey, you're pregnant. Do you mind if we go ahead and give you this drug and see if it gives your baby an extra arm or two? Yeah, I mean, you'll be compensated for your time and whatnot, and you can just answer some surveys, and, I mean, yeah, your kid will have an extra arm or two, but, who doesn't need one? I mean, sometimes carrying in the groceries is tough with only 2 arms. I mean, honestly. So what we can do is we can look at when there is something that is a birth defect that is not easily tied to a recognized genetic mutation, etc., etc. You can go back and ask the mother, or go through the medical charts and see what she had taken and what she admits that she's taken. Okay, or you could say that, okay, we know that this person used this, and we're seeing this increase in babies that have this. Okay, so when SW was talking about her 3rd pregnancy, and you could very easily see that she had those silly stickers on, and somebody must have asked in her chat, she's like, oh yeah, the doctor says I can have them. Oh yeah, there's no problem. Well, number one, we've now confirmed for sure that she had not yet received any prenatal care for that 3rd pregnancy. Okay, so there was no doctor saying this. There was no doctor telling her to give her kids Benadryl and Tylenol. There was no book that said to lock those kids up for 15 hours to 24 hours a day. Okay, so those of you who have not been pregnant, who don't have a uterus, this is probably insightful to you, because you might think, oh yeah, well, these things are safe and common. Well, they're not. They're not. Doctors, I mean, they won't even let you can't even eat tuna anymore, or sushi, because of the mercury. You're not supposed to have caffeine. I mean, they will let you, it's pretty well, you're going to be like, okay, I need my Coca-Cola. I need 1. I need 8 ounces of this, and the doctor still has to say, no, it's not advisable for you to imbibe in cocaine and caffeine. Lord, what the fuck's wrong with me? Slip of like coke. What would Freud say about that? Cocaine. Anywho, I mean, go sniff up. I'm gonna go do a line myself now I've talked about it. Go do a bump. So anyway, the medications you're on when you go to the doctor, because most people go to the doctor within a couple of weeks of finding out that their period is late. They get a home pregnancy test and see what it says, and they make an appointment, for their first prenatal visit to, get their due date and everything. And if you have been on medication, you weren't planning on getting pregnant, then, it's discussed as to the risks and benefits of that drug, and each prescription has a category of how dangerous it has been proven to be by women who have used that medication during pregnancy. Okay? Some are black box, and they would be telling you, do not get pregnant if you're on this, like Accutane. If you are a person who's on Accutane for acne, they're going to also make sure that you're on birth control, because you cannot get pregnant while you're on Accutane. That is a black label, black box. Like you can't. No. So like some other ones, that maybe you're on for a heart condition or whatnot, it's going to be discussed, and they're going to send you, to a specialist in that, and you're going to say, okay, the risks versus the benefit of abruptly stopping or keeping this medication while you're pregnant goes on. And they, like I say, they are not going to say yes to a silly sticker on you. Absolutely not. The ingredients of which are not known, and it is suspected that there's a lot of different forms of caffeine in there. Like I say, caffeine is not something you're supposed to have when you're pregnant. It's tough. It really is. But you want to give your baby the best chance of being formed healthy, and you just don't smoke, you don't drink, so one of these days it's silly, because all you have to do is Google, and it's really funny, because if you Google, can you be pregnant and put these stickers on? Can you have these stickers on while pregnant? It comes right up. And the Google machine says no. And I feel so silly sometimes, having to break this stuff down, because it's logical. It's logical that no, you don't give your kids Benadryl and Tylenol every single night. No, you don't take their rectal temperatures every single night. No, you don't. And I feel really weird doing it. Like, oh my, this is the basic. But the problem is, there's a lot of people who don't know better and are still, I don't know, they're still out there canonizing her, I mean, according to her own mom, she's a saint sitting there next to Jesus. And those are not the kinds of things that you do when you're a good mother. And I'm going down these rabbit holes. And what I want to do is take you down there, because as I'm going down them, I see, oh my gosh, that's why they said this. That's why that creator said this. Okay, this is where this came from. But without knowing the whole breadth of where it came from, we are cheating ourselves out of forming that thought ourselves, and giving us the opportunity to come together as a collective community and say, hey, I don't hear it that way. I don't think that is what is being said. And there is no greater example than the presentation I want to do tonight. Okay? So, without further ado, okay, so when I first started becoming brave enough to ask the questions out loud that I had about this case, I had listened to a certain creator. And so I was on that certain creator's panel. And the first night didn't go so well. I could tell the creator she didn't like me. She thought I was something that plagues her. I don't know. But the next time I was on, I felt we had a really good rapport. And she said, do you think that there could be a situation where a man who's maybe not very sophisticated when it comes to women could make contact with a woman who's maybe a little bit more sophisticated, maybe even a professional. And I explained to the creator that that was exactly along the lines of my thinking, because I know way too much about that world. And it's the only thing that made sense to me as to how a single woman without an education could have had a house as beautiful as she did. A $400,000 beautiful, beautiful stone home. And so I poisoned the ears of that creator with all that I know and all that I should know and all of the ways in which this could really fit. And this could really fit with what somebody else had said. And so the chat was just lighting up. People were loving our discussion. It was a fun discussion. And that was the end of April. And then the next time I saw, that I had time, because I was really busy with, the twins graduating and everything and all that stuff. So I finally had time, and I tried to get back on the panel, and I was ignored, and then got on to ask a question, and I was muted and blocked from that creator. So I feel like those of you who heard that live that night kind of know where I can go down the rabbit hole on that topic of how many different ways I can say, yes, it makes sense. Absolutely, it makes sense. And I would like to go down that rabbit hole again. I think I'll do it when I have a live, so you guys who maybe heard it can ask, because I think it'd be hard for me to make the segue that I want to if I go too deep into that. So with that theory that yes, because then people in the chat kept saying that they thought that I was Honey Badger, or Honey Badger's more refined cousin, or whatnot. And I think that's a compliment, because when I used to listen to Honey Badger, I think she's hilarious. And I don't know where she is. I don't know. Maybe she's, I don't know, Honey Badgers. I don't know if they, what do they do in the summers? What do Honey Badgers do? Do they hibernate in the winters? I don't know. Can't find her. But anyway, the gist of it is that it was agreed that some people very much believe that SW had a alter ego named Veronica. And with her black hair and her inflatable boobies and hips that don't lie and the heels and the wigs and the dresses and the lifestyle, driving that Escalade and living the lifestyle, they're thinking that she was a prostitute. Okay? Now, you look at it and you add it up and you go, there is no frickin' way that somebody, we can't even find a diploma. She did not go to college. She was not a retired nurse. She did not go to nursing school. Okay? I understand that some people saw that she put in there that she was taking clinicals with this and that, and I'm telling you, as a former nursing school dropout, it does not go that way. So somebody with no education, who is working for a high-end detail and tire mart, company, there is no way that she could go in as a single woman and qualify for a $400,000 house. Now, we all know that, before the housing crash and whatnot, there was ways to get loans based on like no document loan. Like you could attest that you can make this payment, and that was that. And that's how so many homes went into foreclosure and the big housing crash. So we can say that, you know what? In that lifestyle, when you're working that, there's a lot of people with a lot of money making a lot of money, and they all know each other. And if you rub them off a little bit ways, and you rub them off, and what if they go and they get you this paperwork done, and then you rub it, and then you do a rub and tug, and then you can get your loan, and you get it. Those people hang around each other. Car dealers, mortgage brokers, high rollers, you know what I mean? Bitches and hoes. They're all hanging together. They love the lifestyle, chasing the money. They look shiny. They're having fun, having the time of their life. If you see pictures of her from that time, she was glowing from the inside out. I think that there were some pictures from that time on A Curious Rose that I saw, and it showed her in that black Escalade. And what do you need an Escalade for if you're a single lady? Huh? What you doing? Get yourself a little Porsche, But she liked it. She liked that lifestyle, big freaking Escalade. Big, beautiful ass house. A lot of people are like, look, what's the difference between a man spending money on dinner, expensive place to go out to dinner, or just giving you the money and the same thing's going to happen at the end of the night? Skip the dinner. Right? She had bills to pay. Electric, water, sewer, Amway. All the things that she needed to pay for in a month, right? That lifestyle. I mean, it fits, guys. It really does. And it seems that CW could have been one of John's clients. If you guys believe that story of they met because a cousin said, oh yeah, you should, and whatever. That's a cover story. I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second. I think that she was involved in a lifestyle where she was having the time of her life, having fun, happy. There's a lot of people in that lifestyle, and they're having fun and they're happy. And if you look at the long-term way that things ended, and you look at how sick she claimed to be and the way that she truly looked, she missed that high-rolling lifestyle. She really did. She missed going out until the break of dawn, looking at the midnight sun, out in a bikini, having fun, drinking, whatever else. She loved that life. It was electric. It was electricity for her. It fueled her from the inside out. She missed that lifestyle. She simply did. And the old adage goes, you can't make a hoe into a housewife, right? So anyway, and I say that, like I say on the live, it is no secret. I come from a long line of whores. There's a lot of hookering in my family tree. I am not passing judgment. And as I said that night in there, if somebody was one of her clients and whatnot, I don't care. Don't care at all. It was a lifestyle that she had when she was in that age. She had things that don't make sense of how she could have afforded. Putting the picture in of her being an escort, which is a very nice way to frame up prostitute, works. It works. Now, take that to where I was with that and go back to my recording last night of where author Sherilyn Cradlecrap, author of the Watts murders, communicated with C.W. Christopher, and he now speaks in scripture, speaks in code. Okay? She said that he referenced scripture in the Bible in which a man was married to a prostitute. Now, I had to go back in my head, and I'm like, I was an acolyte. So I sat there, behind Father Hugh. Listened to everything. I'm like, prostitute in the Bible, prostitute. Like I said, I remember Mary's best friend, Jesus' mom, Mary, her best friend was a prostitute. But I don't think she was married. I don't remember that detail. So I went down the rabbit hole and found in the Bible where it does talk about a man who married a prostitute. As I went deeper and deeper, there are so many things in there that really speak to where his mind is at and what he is trying to tell us. And I see if other creators had seen this is where they're saying some of the things that they are. But they're not telling you how they got there. Okay? Kind of like playing Candyland. They got there, but they didn't tell you, when they went, through Gumdrop Lane and went over the Molasses Bridge and shit, right? They just tell you that they started the game and they got to the end. And this is how they say that. When they say that Bella wasn't his child. And they say that the one that she was carrying wasn't his child. And they say that they resemble the other Chris in North Carolina, and he was there a lot of the times, the MLMs, and you don't really see how they made those connections. Well, shit just got real. I'm not even kidding you, because this is deep. This goes really deep. And I want to take you guys down the rabbit hole that I went down into. And so at this time, I would like to change hats, folks. You ready? Because surprise, surprise. Ready? From the Universal Life Church Ministries, the credentials of ministry, those are mine. Yes, I am a minister. I'm an ordained minister. And so we will put my little minister parking pit out, parking pit, minister parking permit out here for the looks. And we will put out my press pass from the Universal Life Church Ministries, my press pass. And in case the lights start flickering, I have my oil, but it's holy oil. It's anointing oil. It's holy water. So, one of my friends' boyfriends was seriously ill a couple years ago. And she was just sure he was going to die. And they were not ready to take the step of marriage. She's just never been married, didn't want to do it, but she didn't want to let him die and not be married to him, right? And so I was like, well, what are you going to do? And she's like, I don't know because it's going to happen. He needed a kidney transplant, and he was getting closer and closer to death. And so I said, okay, I am going to become an ordained minister so that if the instance happens that you need me at 3 a.m. to come into the hospital and marry you, I will. And so I put forth the paperwork and sent the appointment to the Universal Life Church, and I got my pass to be a minister or a reverend, whichever I choose to go by. I can marry you, I can bury you, I can perform an exorcism, I can baptize, I can bless a house. I can do all kinds of things, but what I want to do is I want to be more present for especially women in correctional facilities, to be there and to have the credentials there. It's something that is valuable when you come in as just somebody. Somebody may not be as open to hearing you, but, saying that, you know what, I'm a chaplain. I am a ordained minister. You can call me reverend. You can call me friend. Just kind of gets you there. And the parking pass, I mean, come on, it looks like I'm, something real cool. Now, you can be a minister of anything. You can start your own church. Being a minister doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to go and provide sermons. Being a minister is something that I think is going to help me a lot as I finish my master's in criminal justice, because like I've shared with you, my illnesses don't allow for me to have a regular job. I'm good for a little while, but then I might have to go and sleep for 15 hours, whatnot. So it's just I can be present when I want to be present, and I hope that I can be there for people who don't have anybody to talk to, and if it makes them feel more comfortable to say that, hey, they want to talk to the chaplain, and I can do that on a volunteer basis. I think that'd be kind of cool. So here's where we're going, folks. You might have guessed it. We are going to read from the Bible. Yes, I do own one. I know it's shocking. And so I think this is really cool. This came too. You get this, and it's like Universal Life Church Ministries, and it shows that we're all children of the same universe. It's really cool. And here's my minister bumper sticker. I could have that. People won't flip me off all the time. It's really cool. I like the way that they put that all together. Because what had happened here is that when I went deep to go and figure out who in the Bible married a prostitute, how in the world did it go? Well, it's Homer and Gomer, folks. Okay? It's Homer and Gomer. And Homer is actually called Hosea. And he is in the section of the Bible where it's the minor prophets. You don't hear a lot about these lower prophets they're referred to. Kind of sounds like, when you're doing music, like a lower thing. So anyway, what I did when I was doing my deep dive is that I listened to a few sermons that had covered this Homer and Gomer. And what I found was that the way that these ministers had interpreted what the Bible said was often very different from what the other one was saying. So I've listened to hours and hours of testimony and sermon today, and I kind of figured that the only way that I can be fair here is to kind of explain the premise of what it is and then read exactly what the Bible says. And my hope here is that it will provoke more thought in all of you guys that are holding me up saying the nicest things ever in the comments. And like I say, I love them, I love them, I love them, but I'm not going to cheapen it by just giving a quick like. I'm only going to answer you when I have time to really sit down and do it. But I'm reading everything and I love it. And I'm going to love to see how you guys interpret what the Bible says as to it pertains to what Christopher's saying in prison. He relates to Homer and Gomer. Okay? Only would it be about Homer and Gomer in this case, because could there be weirder names that I would need to reference? Probably not. So without further ado, grab your Bibles, folks. Go to the middle, page right, and then you're going to get to Hosea. In my Bible, it's on page 797. And so I'll let you guys get your Bibles ready if you'd like to follow along. Certainly don't need to. And basically, the gist of what happened here is that the prophet Hosea was a good and loving man. And it was a time where God was very, very upset with his children. His children of Israel were worshiping other gods. And that is not what a Christian believes. I don't want to offend anybody who has a different religion of me, okay? So if you are of the Christian variety, you know that God likes to be your only God and for you to be true to him. And there was a time when the children of Israel turned away from him. And so God had his prophet Hosea or Homer, and he said, look, you are a good and loving man. What I want to do is give you a woman to marry. And her name is Gomer. I want you to marry her. And what she is going to do to you is she's going to break your heart. She's going to commit adultery. She's going to have babies from other men that she laid with. And she's going to break your heart again and again. And I want you to do this so that you will feel the way that I feel right now as my children have turned away from me. At that time, things were very dark. When you get into the Bible, especially Old Testament stuff, it is not what you think. You know, you think of what we see in the modern day times where people are happy and singing and praising Jesus, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that in the beginning. I mean, people were hurting. They were desperate. And, you know, one pastor said, you know, imagine this. You know, you've got your friend Homer and you've been friends with him forever. And, you know, he says he's getting married and you're like, okay, you know, who are you going to marry? And oh, just show up. And when the bride comes up, she's wearing the blackest black dress. She's got jet black hair. And she is known as an adulterous woman. She is known as the town prostitute. And they all knew that something was not right. They're looking at their friend Homer and they're going, what are you doing? You're going to marry her. You're a good man. You're a good man capable of love. What are you doing? But Homer was told by God to do this because he was one of his prophets. And as he went on, they had children. And God had them each named a specific name that referred to something that had really hurt God. The first one, his son Jezreel, was going to be named that because that was a child born out of that marriage. It was she was having an affair, and it was a child not his, and so he was told, you know what, hey, this is your wife, you're going to love her, but you're going to name this son Jezreel because it's going to remind you of the massacre that happened, and it's going to remind you of future judgment. And the next one is going to be named Mohama, and it's going to remind you that her name means disobedience, no compassion, because that's the way the Lord was feeling about the kids, his children of Israel. He wanted Homer the prophet to feel the way that he was feeling. He wanted Homer to have the human feelings in the way that only a human could. And the next child was going to be named Mohami. And that translates to not my people, not mine. It was another child born out of adultery. And even though he was a good and loving man and forgave her for every time she went and laid with other men and got pregnant by other men, Gomer, left him, left the kids behind and left him. And she became a prostitute, either again or before. This is where it is confusing between the two different schools of thought. Some believe that she was a prostitute before she was married. Some believe that she became a formal prostitute after she had had so many affairs and left Homer and the children behind. Okay, so she left him. She became a prostitute. And she was the town prostitute. And from that, when she wasn't able to, when she kind of lost her looks and charm and everything, she was sold into slavery. Okay? So, as sin comes with a cost, and that there is light and darkness, there's hope and chaos, and that our God is a God of love, Homer was a loving husband, and he still loved and accepted her no matter what, because that is the way that God showed him he was. So although Gomer was doing this, Homer still accepted and loved her every time. And Homer was just devastated. He couldn't go on anymore. He had the kids that were not his blood children. They were the children of other men, but he was married to her. Those are his children by law. by God's law. God told him to accept those children and name them this. So every time you say the name of this child, you'll remember what I said they are. So God said that he would lure Gomer. God said, you know what? Homer, you're a good man. And you've stayed good. You haven't went on to other women. You haven't mistreated your wife. You've loved her. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lure Gomer out into a field, and I'm going to talk to her, and I'm going to tell her that I still love her as her God, and that Homer still loves her as her husband. And she needed to hear that, to remember that God loves his people. Even though they have turned against him, he still loves them. Even though she was an adulterer, Homer continued to love her. And it goes on to talk about how her rebellion cost him a great price. That rebellion and disobedience costs more than you can give back in penance to the Lord. That because of rebellion and disobedience, that is a cost that weighs heavily on your heart, and you owe a debt essentially to the Lord, and that debt is repaid by not turning your back to him, no matter what, as Homer did to Gomer. Okay? Now it goes into, how ultimately they come out, and it's symbolic of the valley of Achor, where there was shame and embarrassment that was turned into a door of hope. And the message was that there's hope for the adulterer. There's hope for the prostitute. There is hope for those that worshiped other gods that come back. That to always say, sin and rebellion comes with a cost. That there is light and darkness. That there is hope and chaos. That our God is a God of love. And to see that in Homer being steady as a prophet of that love. And that's the general gist of it. And at this time, I would like to read the book of Hosea. And it's not that long. I would like to read it in its entirety so that if you would like to hear more, it's here for you. So you don't need to, go and dust off your Bible. You can listen right here to the Reverend Tabitha Jane. And if you don't want to, we can kind of say our goodbyes right here. And thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like and sub. Tell your friends. And because we need to prove that there are more of us out here than there are of them. Because right now, the ones that have so many subbies and whatnot, the ones that look like they are the great leaders of the truth, they are the ones that are not going deep. They are the ones that are continuing the narrative. And they are the ones that are greedy. And they are making money in greed because they are not telling the truth. They are not giving you the truth. They are the ones telling you what you want to hear. And that's cheap. It cheapens the truth. And like I've said, I don't think that television shows can go where we went, can go where we go, because they'll lose their advertising. Freedom of speech isn't free right now at all. Freedom of speech is under attack. And without further ado, like I say, we're almost to the weekend. We're going to get there. And those of you that want to hang on and listen to the whole book of Hosea with me, here we go. Because I'm going to tell you what, when I read the book of Hosea today, I was like, oh my gosh. And I was getting chills over and over thinking, this is what he's trying to say. This is what he told Sherilyn Cradlecrap to come out to the world and say, that this is where his mindset is, and these are the messages he's trying to get across. And because she wrote such a crappy book with horrible grammar, that his words were not heard. That when I listened to Zab Girl's interview that did a great job, she did it a year ago and I hadn't yet heard it. And I am so glad that they did such a thorough interview, because like I say, I've both read and listened to the whole narrated book of that, and I didn't get that. So to really go here and listen to Christopher's words and see where his mind at, this is really compelling, really, really compelling. Some of these names are kind of tough to say, so I'm sorry if I stumble over the words. And without further ado, here I go in the book of Hosea. And the word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Beeri, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Asa, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and during the reign of Jeroboam, son of Jehoshish, king of Israel, Hosea's wife and children. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, go, take to yourself an adulterous wife and the children of unfaithfulness, because the land is guilty of the vilest adultery in departing from the Lord. So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel. Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call her Lo Rumah, for I will no longer show love to the house of Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Yet I will show love to the house of Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses and horsemen, but by the Lord their God. After she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, Gomer had another son. Then the Lord said, call him Lo-Ammi, for you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. In the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, they will be called sons of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will be reunited, and they will appoint one leader and will come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. Hold, please. And we're in Hosea chapter 2 for those of you who are following along. Say of your brothers, my people, and of your sisters, my loved one, Israel punished and restored. Rebuke your mother, rebuke her. For she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove the adulterous look from her face, and from the unfaithfulness from between her breasts. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and make her as bare as on the day she was born. I will make her like a desert, turn her into a parched land, and slay her with thirst. I will not show my love to her children, because they are the children of adultery. Their mother has been unfaithful and has conceived them in disgrace. She said, I will go after my lovers who give me my food and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink. Therefore I will block her path with thorn bushes. I will wall her in so that she cannot find her way. She will chase after her lovers but not catch them. She will look for them but not find them. She will say, I will go back to my husband at first, for then I was better off than now. She has acknowledged that I was the one who gave her the grain, the new wine and oil, who lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. Therefore I will take away the grain when it ripens, and my new wine when it is ready. I will take back my wool and my linen, intended to cover her nakedness, so now I will expose her lewdness before the eyes of her lovers. No one will take her out of my hands. I will stop all of her celebrations, her yearly festivals, her new moons, her Sabbath day, all of her appointed feasts. I will ruin her vines and her fig trees, which she said were her pay from her lovers. I will make them a thicket, and wild animals will devour them. I will punish her for the days she burned incense to Baals. She decked herself with rings and jewelry and went after her lovers. But me she forgot, declares the Lord. Therefore I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her back her vineyards, and will make the valley of Anchor the door of hope. There she will sing as in the days of her youth, as in the day she came up out of Egypt. In that day, declares the Lord, you will call me my husband. You will no longer call me my master. I will remove the names of the Baals from her lips. No longer will their names be invoked. In that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field and the birds of the air and the creatures that move along to the ground. Bow and sword and battle, I will abolish them from the land, so that all may lie down in safety. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you in righteousness and justice, in love and in compassion. I will betroth you in faithfulness, and you will acknowledge the Lord. In that day I will respond, declares the Lord. I will respond to the skies, and they will respond to the earth. And the earth will respond to the grain, and the new wine and oil. They will respond to Jezreel. I will plant her for myself in the land. I will show my love to the one I called not my loved one. I will say to the people I called not my people, you are my people. And they will say, you are my God. Hosea's reconciliation with his wife. We are in 3. The Lord said to me, "Go show your love to your wife again. Although she's loved by another and is an adulteress, love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love the sacred raisin cakes." So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and about a homer and a lavik of barley. Then I told her, "You are to live with me many days. You must not be a prostitute or be intimate with any man, and I will live with you." For the Israelites will live many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones, without ephod or idol. Afterward, the Israelites will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They will come trembling to the Lord and his blessings in the last days. And now we're to the charge against Israel. We're in chapter 4 of Hosea. "Hear the word of the Lord, you Israelites, because the Lord has a charge to bring against you who live in the land. There is no faithfulness, no love, no acknowledgement of God in the land. There is only cursing, lying, and murder, stealing and adultery. They break all bounds, and bloodshed follows bloodshed. Because of this, the land mourns, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field and the birds of the air and the fish of the sea are dying. But let no man bring charge, let no man accuse another. For your people are like those who bring charges against a priest. You stumble day and night, and the prophets stumble with you. So I will destroy your mother. My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you as my priests. Because you have ignored the law of your God, I will also ignore your children. The more priests increased, the more they sinned against me. They exchanged their glory for something disgraceful. They feed on the sins of my people and relish their wickedness. And it will be like people, like priests. I will punish both of them for their ways and repay for their deeds. They will eat but not have enough. They will engage in prostitution but not increase, because they have deserted the Lord. To give themselves to prostitution, to old wine and new, which take away the understanding of my people. They consult a wooden idol and are answered by a stick of wood. A spirit of prostitution leads them astray. They are unfaithful to their God. They sacrifice on the mountaintops and burn offerings on the hills, under oak, poplar, and terebinth, where the shade is pleasant. Therefore your daughters turn to prostitution, and your daughters-in-law to adultery. I will not punish your daughters when they turn to prostitution, not your daughters-in-law when they commit adultery." Do we hear that, people? What do we have here? I'm turning into the church lady from SNL because this is deep. I'm going to repeat that one thing because when I saw this, I was like, whoa. Okay, one more time. "I will not punish your daughters when they turn to prostitution, nor your daughters-in-law when they commit adultery." Oh, it's just so deep. Did you guys get chills when you read this? So now I am on Hosea chapter 2, verse 3. "For she is not my wife, and I am not her husband." Wait a minute. That page was stuck together. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, that was all stuck together. I love that. Wipe that adulterous look off your face. Anyway, here we are. And so again, that one where we're like, hey, here, I will not punish your daughters when they turn to prostitution, nor your daughters-in-law when they commit adultery, because the men themselves consort with the harlots and sacrifice with shrine prostitutes. A people without understanding will come to ruin. Though you commit adultery, O Israel, let not Judah become guilty. Do not go to Gilgal. Do not go up to Beth-aven. Do not swear as surely the Lord lives. The Israelites are stubborn, like a stubborn heifer. How then can the Lord pasture them like lambs in a meadow? Ephraim is joined to idols. Leave him alone. Even when their drinks are gone, they continue their prostitution. Their rulers dearly love shameful ways. A whirlwind will sweep them away, and their sacrifices will bring them shame. And now we are in Hosea chapter 5, judgment against Israel. Hear this, you priests. Pay attention, you Israelites. Listen, O royal house. This is judgment. This judgment is against you. You have been a snare at Mizpah, a net spread out on Tabor. The rebels are deep in slaughter. I'll discipline them all. I know all about Ephraim. Israel is not hidden from me. Ephraim, you have now turned to prostitution. Israel is corrupt. Their deeds do not permit them to return to their God. A spirit of prostitution is in their heart. They do not acknowledge the Lord. Israel's arrogance testifies against them. The Israelites, even Ephraim, stumble into their sin. Judah also stumbles with them. When they go with their flocks and herds to seek the Lord, they will not find him. He has withdrawn himself from them. They are unfaithful to the Lord. They give birth to illegitimate children. Now their new moon festivals will devour them in their fields. Sound the trumpet in Gibeah, the horn in Ramah. Raise the battle cry in Beth-aven. Lead on, O Benjamin. Ephraim will be laid waste on the day of reckoning. Among the tribes of Israel I proclaim what is certain. Judah's leaders are like those who move boundary stones. I will pour out my wrath on them like a flood of water. Ephraim is oppressed, trampled in judgment, intent on pursuing idols. I am like a moth to Ephraim, like rot to the people of Judah. When Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah his sores, then Ephraim turned to Assyria and sent the great king for help. But he is not able to cure you, not able to heal your sores, for I will be like a lion to Ephraim, like a great lion to Judah. I will tear them to pieces and go away. I will carry them off with no one to rescue them. Then I will go back to my place until they admit their guilt. And they will seek my face in their misery. They will earnestly seek me. We're in Hosea. We're going to chapter 6. We're going into Israel unrepentant. Come, let us return to the Lord. He has torn us to pieces, but he will heal us. He has injured us, but he will bind up our wounds. After 2 days, he will revive us. On the 3rd day, he will restore us, that we may live in his presence. Let us acknowledge the Lord. Let us press on to acknowledge him. As surely as the sun rises, he will appear. He will come to us like the winter rains, like the spring rains that water the earth. What can I do with you, Ephraim? What can I do with you, Judah? Your love is like the morning mist, like the early dew that disappears. Therefore I cut you in pieces with my prophets. I killed you with the words of my mouth. My judgments flash like lightning upon you, for I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and acknowledgments of God, rather than burnt offerings. Like Adam, they have broken the covenant. They were unfaithful to me. They were. Gilead is a city of wicked men, stained with footprints of blood. As marauders lie in ambush for a man, so do bands of priests. They murder on the road to Shechem, committing shameful crimes. I have seen a horrible thing in the house of Israel. There Ephraim is given to prostitution, and Israel is defied. As for you, Judah, a harvest is appointed. Whenever I would restore the fortunes of my people, whenever I would heal Israel, the sins of Ephraim are exposed and the crimes of Samaria are revealed. They practice deceit and they break into houses. Bandits rob in the street, but they do not realize that I remember all their evil deeds. Their sins engulf them. They are always before me. They delight the king with their wickedness, their princes with their lies. They are all adulterers, burning like an oven whose fire the baker need not stir, from the kneading of the dough till it rises. On the day of the festival of our king, the princes become inflamed with wine, and he joins hands with the mockers. Their hearts are like an oven. They approach him with intrigue, and their passion smolders all night. In the morning it blazes like a flaming fire. All of them, hot as an oven. They devour their rulers. All their kings fall, and none of them call to me. Ephraim mixes with the nations. Ephraim is a flat cake not turned over. Foreigners sap his strength, but he doesn't realize it. His hair is sprinkled with gray, but he does not notice. Israel's arrogance testifies against him, but despite all this, he does not return to the Lord his God or search for him. Ephraim is like a dove, easily deceived and senseless, now calling to Egypt, now turning to Assyria. When they go, I will throw my net over to them. I will pull them down like birds in the air. When I hear them flocking together, I will catch them. Woe to them, because they have strayed from me. Destruction to them, because they have rebelled against me. I long to redeem them, but they speak lies against me. They do not cry out to me from their hearts, but wail upon their beds. They gather together for grain and new wine, but turn away from me. I train them and strengthen them, but they plot evil against me. They do not turn to the Most High. They are like a faulty bow. Their leaders will fall by the sword because their insolent words. For this they will be ridiculed in the land of Egypt. Hosea chapter 8, verse 1. Israel to reap the whirlwind. Put the trumpet to your lips. An eagle is over the house of the Lord, because the people have broken my covenant and rebelled against my law. Israel cries out to me, O our God, we acknowledge you. But Israel has rejected what is good. An enemy will pursue him. They set up kings without my consent. They chose princes without my approval. With their silver and gold, they make idols for themselves and their own destruction. Throw out your calf idol, O Samaria. My anger burns against them. How long will they be incapable of purity? They are from Israel. This calf, a craftsman has made it. It's not a god. It will be broken in pieces, that calf of Samaria. They sow the wind and reap the whirlwind. The stalk has no head. It will produce no flower. Were it to yield grain, foreigners would swallow it up. Israel is swallowed up. Now she is among the nations like a worthless thing, for they have gone to Assyria like a wild donkey wandering alone. Ephraim has sold herself to lovers. Although they have sold themselves among the nations, I will now gather them together. They will begin to waste away under the mighty oppression of the king. Though Ephraim built many altars for sin offerings, these have become altars for sinning. I wrote them in many things of my law, but they regarded them as something alien. They offer sacrifices given to me, and they eat the meat, but the Lord is not pleased with them. Now he will remember their wickedness and punish their sins. They'll return to Egypt. Israel has forgotten his makers and built palaces. Judah has fortified many towns, but I will send fire upon their cities that will consume their fortresses. Hosea chapter 9. Punishment for Israel. Do not rejoice, O Israel. Do not be jubilant like the other nations, for you have been unfaithful to your God. You love the wages of a prostitute. At every threshing floors and wine presses will not feed the people. The new wine will fail them. They will not remain in the Lord's land. Ephraim will return to Egypt and eat unclean food in Assyria. They will not pour out wine offerings to the Lord, nor will their sacrifices please him. Such sacrifices will be to them like the bread of mourners who eat them. They will be unclean. This food will be for themselves. It will not come into the temple of the Lord. What will you do on the day of your appointed feasts, on the festival days of the Lord? Even if they escape from destruction, Egypt will gather them, and Memphis will bury them. And their treasures of silver will be taken over by briars and thorns and overrun their tents. The days of punishment are coming. The days of reckoning are at hand. Let Israel know this, because your sins are so many and your hostility so great. The prophet is considered a fool, the inspired man a maniac. The prophet, along with my God, is the watchman over Ephraim. Yet snares await him in all these paths, and hostility in the house of his God. They have sunk deep into corruption in the days of Gibeah. God will remember their wickedness and punish for their sins. When I found Israel, it was like finding grapes in the desert. When I saw your fathers, it was like seeing the early fruit on the fig tree. But when they came to Baal Peor, they consecrated themselves to the shameful idol and became as vile as the thing they loved. Ephraim's glory will fly away like a bird. No bird, no pregnancy, no conception. Even if they rear children, I will bereave them of every one. Woe to them when I turn away from them. I have seen Ephraim like Tyre, planted in a pleasant place, but Ephraim will bring out the children of the slayer. Give to them, O Lord, What will you give to them? Give them wombs that miscarry and breasts that are dry. Because of all of their wickedness in Gilgal, I hated them there because of their sinful deeds. I will drive them out of my house, and I will no longer love them. All their leaders are rebellious. Ephraim is blighted. Their root is withered. They yield no fruit. Even if they bear children, I will slay their cherished offspring. My God will reject them because they have not obeyed him. They will be wanderers among the nations. Israel was a spreading vine he brought forth for himself. As his fruit increased, he built more altars, and his land prospered. He adorned his sacred stones. Their heart is deceitful, and now they must bear their guilt. The Lord will demolish their altars and destroy their sacred stones. Then they will say, we have no king because we did not revere the Lord. But even if we had a king, what could he do for us? They make many promises, take false oaths, and make agreements. Therefore, lawsuits spring up like poisonous weeds in a plowed field. The people who live in Samaria fear for the calf idol of Beth-aven. Its people will mourn over it, and so will its idolatrous priests, those who had rejoiced over its splendor, because it is taken from them in exile. It will be carried to Assyria as tribute for the great king. Ephraim will be disgraced, and Israel be ashamed of its wooden idols. Samaria and its king will float away like a twig on the surface of the waters. The high places of wickedness will be destroyed. It is the sin of Israel. Thorns and thistles will grow up and cover their altars. Then they will say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. Since the days of Gibeah, you have sinned, O Israel, and there you have remained. Did not a war overtake the evildoers in Gibeah? When I please, I will punish them. Nations will be gathered against them, to put them in bonds for their double sin. Ephraim is a trained heifer that loves to thresh, so I will put a yoke on her fair neck. I will drive Ephraim. Judah must plow, and Jacob must break up the ground. Sow for yourselves righteousness, reap the fruit of unfailing love, and break up your unplowed ground. For it is time to seek of the Lord until he comes and showers your righteousness on you. But you have planted wickedness. You have reaped evil. You have eaten the fruit of deception because you have depended on your own strength and on your many warriors. The roar of battle will rise against your people so that your fortresses will be devastated. As Shalman devastated Beth Arbel the day of battle, when mothers were dashed to the ground with their children. Thus will happen to you, O Bethel, because your wickedness is great. When that day dawns, the king of Israel will be completely destroyed. God's love for Israel. Hosea, chapter 12. Chapter 11, I misspoke. God's love for Israel. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. But the more I called Israel, the further they went from me.
They sacrificed to the Baals, and they burned incense to the images. It was I who taught Ephraim to walk, taking them by the arms, but they did not realize it was I who healed them. I led them with cords of human kindness, with ties of their love. I lifted the yoke from their neck and bent down to feed them. Will they not return to Egypt? And will not Assyria rule over them because they refuse to repent? Swords will flash in their cities, and their cities will destroy the bars of their gates and put an end to their plans. My people are determined to turn from me. Even if they call to the Most High, he will by no means exalt them. How can I give to you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? How can I treat you like Admah? How can I make you like Zeboiim? My heart is changed within me. All my compassion is aroused. I will not carry out my fierce anger, nor will I turn and devastate Ephraim. For I am God, and I am not man, the Holy One among you. I will not come in wrath. They will follow the Lord. He will roar like a lion, and when he roars, his children will come trembling from the west. They will come trembling like birds from Egypt, like doves from Assyria, and I will settle them in their homes, declares the Lord. Israel's sin. Ephraim has surrounded me with his lies, the house of Israel with deceit, and Judah is unruly against God, even against the faithful, Holy One. Ephraim feeds on the wind. He pursues the east wind all day and multiplies lies and violence, and he makes a treaty with Assyria and sends olive oil to Egypt. The Lord has a charge to bring against Judah. He will punish Jacob according to his ways and repay him according to his deeds. In the womb he grasped his brother's heel, and as a man he struggled with God. He struggled with the angel and overcame him. He wept and begged for his favor, and he found him at Bethel and talked with him there. The Lord God Almighty, the Lord is his name of renown. But you must return to your God, maintain love and justice, and wait for your God always. The merchant uses dishonest scales. He loves to defraud, Ephraim boasts. I am very rich. I have become wealthy. With all my wealth, they will not find in me any iniquity or sin. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. I will make you live in tents again in the days of your appointed feasts. As in the days of your appointed feasts, I spoke to the prophets and gave them many visions and told them parables through them. Is Gilead wicked? Its people are worthless. Do they sacrifice bulls in Gilgal? Their altars will be like piles of stones on a plowed field. Jacob fled to the country of Aram. Israel served to get a wife, and to pay for her he tended sheep. The Lord used a prophet to bring Israel up from Egypt. By a prophet, he cared for him, but Ephraim has bitterly provoked him to anger. His Lord will leave upon him the guilt of his bloodshed and will repay him for his contempt. And this is the Lord's anger against Israel in chapter 13. When Ephraim spoke, men trembled. He was exalted in Israel, but he became guilty of Baal worship and died. Now they sin more and more. They make idols for themselves from their silver, cleverly fashioned images of all of them the work of craftsmen. It is said that these people, they offer human sacrifice and kiss the calf idols. Therefore, they will be like the morning mist, like the early dew that disappears, like chaff swirling from a threshing floor. The smoke escaping through a window. But I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. You shall acknowledge no God but me, no Savior except for me. I cared for you in the desert, in the land of burning heat. When I fed them, they were satisfied, and when they were satisfied, they became proud, and then they forgot me. So I will come upon them like a lion, like a leopard I will lurk by the path. Like a bear robbed of her cubs, I will attack them and rip them open. Like a lion, I will devour them. A wild animal will tear them apart. You are destroyed, O Israel, because you are against me, against your helper. Where is your king, that he may save you? Where are your rulers in all your towns, of whom you said, give me a king and a prince? So in my anger I gave you a king, and in my wrath I took him away. The guilt of Ephraim is stored up, his sins are kept on record. Pains as of a woman in childbirth come to him, but he is a child without wisdom when the time arrives. He does not come to the opening of the womb. I will ransom them from the power of the gravel, and I will redeem them from death. Where, O death, is your plague? Where, O grave, is your destruction? I will have no compassion, even though he thrives among his brothers. An east wind from the Lord will come. Come blowing from the desert. His spring will fall, and his well will dry up. His storehouse will be plundered of all of its treasures. The people of Samaria must bear their guilt, because they have rebelled against their God. They will fall by the sword. Their little ones will be dashed to the ground. Their pregnant women will be ripped open. Repentance to bring blessing. Return, O Israel, to the Lord your God. Your sins have been your downfall. Take with you and return to the Lord. Say to him, forgive all of our sins and receive us graciously, that we may offer the fruit of our lips. Assyria cannot save us. We will not mount our war horses. We will never again say our gods to what our own hands have made. For you, the fatherless, find compassion. I will heal their waywardness and love them freely. For my anger has turned away from them. I will be like the dew to Israel. He will blossom like a lily, like a cedar of Lebanon. He will send down his roots, his young shoots will grow. His splendor will be like an olive tree, his fragrance like a cedar of Lebanon. Men will dwell again in his shade, and he will flourish like the grain. He will blossom like a vine, and his fame will be like the wine from Lebanon. O Ephraim, what more have I to do with idols? I will answer him and care for him. I am like a green pine tree. Your fruitfulness comes from me. Who is wise? He will realize these things. Who is discerning? He will understand them. The ways of the Lord are right. The righteous walk in them, but the rebellious stumble in them. Amen. And that, my friends, is the chapter of Hosea aka Homer, who married Gomer. And this is where Christopher's mind is when he wanted to send the message out. Told her to read the scripture about a prostitute, a married prostitute. To me, this speaks to burning anger. I think that a lot of people, when they are incarcerated, turn to the Lord for the first time in their lives. If not for the first time, for in a very long time. And I think that it brings peace and understanding. And when I read this book of Hosea and saw the parallels, I really think that this story is yet untold. We need to tell the story. This is a man who was hurting. This isn't a man who snapped. Just snapped one day. This is a man who tried and tried. I think he loved her with everything. I think that when they first met, he probably worshipped the ground she walked on, and she loved that. She'd never had anybody do that. He cared for her when she was sick. She was stressed. She was under accusation of embezzlement. She was leading a lifestyle that was very dangerous, and it was rumored that she was sleeping with his name is Hisham, the owner of the Dirty South. It was rumored that she was sleeping with him, Hisham, or whatever, Hisham. And it was rumored that she was embezzling from him. Now, a lawsuit came to fruition, and it is thought that she left town in a hurry, got rid of that house, and left town. And it is believed that the true reason that she changed her name, and the spelling of her name, the Shanann, is because she wanted to throw confusion in people trying to look her up for that lawsuit. When she worked at the Dirty South, she was Shannon King. Her parents called her Shanann because she was named after Shanana, or I don't know how that goes right there, right? Or they called her Shanna Ann. Who called her Shanna Ann? Was that her classmate? And then when she, was probably in the partying lifestyle, it was probably like shenanigans, right? So she changed it. And when she worked there, she was Shanna Ann King. So when the lawsuit came out, people could easily, put in those letters. And she thought that if she changed her name just a bit, got remarried, people wouldn't be able to find this lawsuit. And it worked. Who knew that was there? Who knew that this bright, beautiful, young, vibrant couple moving in to their beautiful house on Saratoga had this twisted ass past just in their midst? The dust hadn't settled. I mean, she laid low. She lived with the Dietermans. I don't know. She lived with them as a live-in nanny, and CW lived there too. So basically, she hid. She went deep. She probably left no forwarding address. And I'm sure that the kangaroos, when people came trying to serve papers for their daughter, said they had no idea where she was. And they let a year and a half go. The heat was off. Then she appears in their beautiful house. All's going well. She said she couldn't have kids, and that really may have been loaded. Maybe she didn't like kids. A lot of people don't. But then, lo and behold, she got pregnant. And we know something happened towards the end of the pregnancy with Bella. And pregnancy often makes a low-lying or well-controlled mental illness get much worse. Especially if the medications that she was taking for her mental illness were not safe to take during a pregnancy. So she may have had to stop her drugs for her depression or bipolar or whatever the case may be, her migraines. So then when she had been off those meds for that time, and she's got all the hormones of pregnancy coming, and she wants to nest, and she's freaking out, and she flipped out. There's something really weird about that time period, what happened towards the end of the pregnancy of Bella, and then kind of when she resurfaced. And when she resurfaced, she was in this house, bored, didn't have the lifestyle. She's stuck with this crying, screaming newborn. She's lonely. She doesn't know anybody in the new town she moved to. So she does what she knows best. She goes back to MLM. And I don't know that there was a gap between when she was selling Amway or when she needed to lay low for a while so that those trying to serve her the papers for the lawsuit couldn't find her associated with Amway. I don't know if she, had to quit it then. But she wanted to go back to that life and those vacations. She loved vacations and being away. And if she only sold so much again, then she could go back out of town and go on those vacations and tip the drinks back. Rub elbows with those high rollers again. Live the lifestyle that she loved. She craved it. She thought she could get it back. Then she got pregnant again. And they had to claim bankruptcy because all that beautiful furniture they put in there, they couldn't afford. They couldn't. They could not pay their bills. And the MLMs weren't paying the bills, so she kept trying to find one that would. She was selling this, she was selling that, she was selling the lashes, she was selling the oil, she was selling the hair shit, she was selling the silly stickers. Well, one of them was going to pay off, right? Well, the thing about all the MLMs is that you can buy your welcome kit. And there's something called a kidnapper, where you just go and you get the kit so you can get the products. Because that's kind of fun, right? Well, it's hard to stop because they really, are like, oh gosh, you started and here's your website and your mentor is really going to be like, oh gosh, we really want you to get a great start. So, make sure that you get this and you're going to get this bonus for, starting out, so well and strong, and let's get your friends involved. And there you go. And the thing is that you had to pay this monthly fee. And it's for your, say, duplicated, reticulated website, whatever it is. So then your own selling link and your own website of that is up, and you have to pay that fee. And then you have your selling minimums. And to get higher up in the thing, you have to have the downline. So you have to have all these people doing this. And she created some of the downline herself, and her family was in it, and it's just very sad at the end of the day. It's very sad. It's very somber and very sad. But you see how this happened. Is that she liked a certain kind of lifestyle. Christopher himself had said that he didn't want that big ass house. He wanted a little house. He didn't want all that. He'd be happy in a little house. And when he cared for her when she was sick, she said he calls her up and reminds her to take her medication every day. He cared for her. He provided. He could have went on and still to this day been a very humble, loyal man that loved his family and loved his life. And they could have taken vacations because they had loving grandparents that would have came. But not with her, because she wanted something different. And the more that they each wanted something different, they grew apart. And getting in Christopher's head in that story of Homer and Gomer, and seeing how angry God was at his children, at his world. And that whole chapter being all about all the ways that he was furious that his children had turned against him. He chose Homer and said, I want you to feel like I do, to hurt like I hurt. I want it, and you're going to do it. You're going to hurt. I'm going to give to you a woman who's going to break your heart, cheat on you, prostitute herself. You see it? Do you see the parallels? I sure do. I really do. And it bothers me that, he shared that, and I don't think anybody really noted it. I mean, sure, I've heard that, all of the theories that, okay, that Bella looks like the other Chris, and common thought is that Bella and Cece are not biologically sisters. They're from the same mother, but they'd be half sisters, because it is thought that Christopher definitely is the father of Cece. But then I'm kind of going with a theory that I don't think number 3 was his at all. And once again, that's by the process of deduction, because the DNA was taken from the fetus, and Christopher was not given a copy of that DNA. Why is that? Wouldn't the father of the child get a copy of the DNA? And then that may have been why he could not have been buried with the W name. So they chose to bury all 3 with her maiden name, because that was not Bella and Cece's legal name. Bella and Cece's legal name was with a W. You can put anything you want on a headstone. But it just makes you wonder, is that why? Is that why she didn't get prenatal care? I know that other creators are saying right now that Papa Ronnie got a copy of the DNA or whatever, and he didn't. There's no proof of that. But I hope that my food for thought leaves you really thinking about how you interpret where his headspace is, with that being the Bible verse that he told her he relates to. He wanted her to read. It's sad that that was missed on her, because like when she met, or when she was talking to Cindy, she stopped talking to Cindy because Cindy was telling her all these things about her daughter-in-law. So because the author was going with the main narrative, she missed this opportunity to give us. And step by step, if we backtrack and really go deep and just mine through these rabbit holes, it's going to make a lot more sense of what other people say, how they're saying it, where they're coming from. So I thank you for allowing this segue and letting me be a little bit different tonight in Tabitha Jane After Dark. And you let me bring out my minister hat. And in closing, I thank you. And we made it to Friday, guys. Yay, we made it. Thank you again for all that you're writing. You guys are inspiring me. You guys are really making me think. And I hope that this will make you guys think too. And tell me what you took out of this. And tell me how you interpret it. And then I'll love it when I go live. We're going to talk about this. And we're going to talk about probably some of the other really hot topics right now about, Dre McRae and missing Kelsey. That's so sad. As I'm from the West Coast, I know where Truckee is. I think it's by Reno. I keep thinking it's by right by Reno, but on the Reno-Nevada border maybe. And she just looks like your all-American girl going to a grad party. It's supposed to be small. Turns into a bunch of rowdy guys. And all of a sudden, this beautiful girl isn't anywhere to be seen. I hope that there's a good ending to it. But it's not looking good. Dre McRae, that is some cray. I went through a rabbit hole and I went and found pictures of Mr. McRae's neck. And he had beautiful skin. Beautiful. And there was not a mark on his neck. So when she was talking in the hospital and you got a glimpse of his neck, you really can see that he had healing wounds from a rope where he had sadly tried to hang himself. And I don't know how the Jehovah's Witness part is playing into that, because I know that Dre is being really specific with what types of medication he can get. And so I don't know. I think definitely he can't get a blood transfusion. But I saw that they were, placing a feeding tube and stuff. And I thought that Jehovah's Witness kind of believed not to do some of those more really invasive measures to save a life. So I would really like it if somebody in my Truth Warriors is a Jehovah's Witness, so that you can bring to the panel how that factor may be affecting his care. And I'd love to hear if you guys think that he is responding the way that she says. I don't know. But once again, I'm so proud of everybody, making their own channels and talking about this. And I am so glad that I finally have a vessel to put all of this together, because I talk like this to my poor husband all the time. We go out, we do date night once a week, and I tell him all my things, and I tell him basically what I talk to you guys about. And he just sits there and looks at me like, what's wrong with you? He's just not like that. He likes his sports. He doesn't like true crime. So he thinks I'm a weirdo. So thank you guys for giving me an outlet. He appreciates it. Mr. Tabitha Jane appreciates it. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. Thank you for letting me speak to you. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.